and welcome to another episode of Nerd Days. This is the show where we talk about everything nerdy. My name is Mick, and with me, as always, are my co-hosts Josh.
What's up?
Corey.
Hello.
And Jonah.
Hey.
Welcome to the show, guys. We're just going to jump right into the series or season finale of Rings of Power. It just aired its last episode last week. So, like always, we're going to just jump right into spoilers. So, if you have not watched the show, last episode, go watch it. Come back and then...
They can do whatever the heck they want.
No, you're going to do what I tell you.
Okay. Wow.
And then join us with spoiler talk. So let's jump into it, boys. What'd you think?
I loved it. I really loved it. You'll make fun of me because I know you will because this is how we roll.
Wow.
But okay. I got teared up with the whole Harfoot stuff, and I wasn't expecting that.
No, the point where the dad was letting go of his daughter, 100%. You'd have to be heartless not to be at least pulled a little bit. You know, your
and so that part I thought was really good. The dialogue, everything, and then even the Sadok part where he's like, "I want to see the sunrise." Like I thought that was really cool. So I think for me there was a lot of good in the episode, but I was really shocked at how much the Harfoots kind of struck a chord with me. So that I thought that was really cool. I don't know what you guys thought about
I agree. Yeah, I think there was a lot more emotion to their kind of ending for the season than I was expecting, especially with some revelations from the stranger guy. But yeah, there was definitely some sadder moments that I wasn't really expecting, for sure.
Yeah, I think that part of the story was, in my opinion, done the best. Possibly because there's just not as much written about. Like, this is totally new ground. Like, this is made up, basically. So maybe that's why I enjoyed it, but it was really well done. It struck a chord with the dad and the family and saying goodbye, and also having some like callbacks with adventure and just journeying, you know, and that kind of like dynamic between the stranger and Kiri. What's her name?
Nori.
Yeah. And so I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I think that it wasn't my favorite part, but I think it was the most well done out of all the different little story beats.
Did I miss something, or was there like just a weird edit where it felt like Nori talked with the stranger and it was like clear that she didn't want to go, and then like the next scene it was like she was ready to go? Did I miss something?
Didn't they? Yeah, they go.
So
she says bye, and then when they go down, her parents say like, "You need to go."
Yeah, she's like going like she's doing what she's supposed to do, which is say goodbye and go and help.
Okay,
you know, the tribe,
and they tell her like
they can see that she's meant to go.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
What do you think, Josh?
I thought it was good. Yeah, I liked the Harfoot storyline was good. Yeah.
What do you think about the mystics or whatever you want to call them, the cultists, whatever?
I thought they were cool. I liked the kind of the introduction of them being from the East, and then being like, we're going to take you back to your land in the East. I think that introduces some interesting things for season 2 that we can explore. But yeah, I mean, I thought they were cool. I'm not sure what to make of the whole, like, well, I know what to make of it. Like the whole butterfly thing. I'm like, they're kind of telegraphing or like, kind of letting you know. There's a couple of other things that they're doing to be like, this is Gandalf. With all the things they've done, I kind of find it hard to believe that it won't be Gandalf.
Yeah, me too.
It's a red herring
because
it's not.
It seems strange that you would do all these things and then for them to be like, oh, it's a blue wizard.
Yeah,
and then the main audience is like, what? I thought it was supposed to be Gandalf.
Exactly.
So because everyone's basically already saying like, oh yeah, that's Gandalf. So I think it's most likely Gandalf. For me, I hope it's not. I would be fine with it being someone else, but I think it doesn't make sense for them, especially for the let's call it the mainstream audience that's already like, oh yeah, I think this is Gandalf. I don't think it's worth it for them to do like make it into another wizard, because then people will be like,
they'd be confused.
Who the F is that?
Yeah, they'd be very confused.
There's a blue one now. So, but yeah, I thought the stuff was really good. I think the actor did an awesome job, the stranger, for like what little he had to work with, essentially, of like, I can't really speak that much. Like a lot of it was just all just facial expressions, body, his posture, all that stuff. And I think kind of the build up to him kind of remembering who he is and like slowly picking that stuff up, even his interactions with Nori at the end. And I don't think I think I saw some people that were like, oh, he was just doing an Ian McKellen impression. I was like, no,
I didn't
not
get
really,
that
not at all. It was definitely like his own take on the character, and I thought it worked really well. And I'm excited to see kind of what his storyline is moving forward.
Yeah, the only issue I had with him, which is nothing, because I think it's just the writing, the story that they wrote, was how quick he unlocked basically like full speech and like very like confident, and like it was like almost like two put together.
Did that like come from the three followers? Like they helped him unlock something, or
I think that's what they were implying.
is that what? Okay,
because she was even saying like, oh, the veil in your mind is going to start,
right?
Whatever, separating or whatever.
Yeah, I was just surprised at how fast it happened. I understood that, and I said, oh yeah, they're like trying to awaken him basically.
Yeah,
from his like slumber state basically. But I was just like, boom, that was he's 100%. All of a sudden, I was like, eh. But that's the only real gripe I had. I loved like the graphics. I loved the transformation effect that they had. That was really cool. Was the fire was sick.
Yeah, and I thought the girl was super cool. How she would like turn into other people, and then like her transformation back was like really cool looking, super creepy.
The fight was really cool too. It reminded me a little bit of Saruman and Gandalf from the Peter Jackson trilogy, but I thought that was well done. It looked cool action scene there.
Less cables.
Like flying break dancing on the ground.
Yeah, and just a little bit to what you're saying. Yeah, you're right. It's probably Gandalf, but I'm still kind of hoping, like you said, that it's someone different. And the only reason I would say that is that in this season, kind of the big mystery was Sauron. And I get why they did that whole thing, because if you have him show up as Anatar, everyone knows he's Sauron. But this way, you could have people guessing. That's the only thing I can see them doing in season 2, if they want to continue that mystery thing, is to be like, let's set up this thing to be like, oh yeah, like he's Gandalf, people think that, and then you come up with a twist that changes that. That's the only thing that makes me think like there's a 5 to 10% chance that happens. But I think what you're right, most likely is that they're going to say he's Gandalf. But that's what I'm just kind of, that's holding me a little bit, is saying like, well, if they want to continue to have like, a mystery box kind of thing that they did in the first season, that might be something that's like, hey, let's set them up. Because they don't come out and say it's Gandalf.
Right.
They kind of say all these hints there, but they could easily be like, well, that's how wizards, like, we never said it was Gandalf. You just took that to say that. So that might be interesting to see what they do with that.
Yeah, because they have played around with, they've not straight up said, oh, he's Gandalf or any of his other names. They're basically just like, oh, it's the Istar, one of the wizards. And so it's like, they do leave themselves a back door to change it. I just don't know whether or not that would be effective or not.
It just doesn't make sense to me, because you've got one character who's like, part of the story was intrinsic to being a mystery. Yeah. And that's already revealed. And the other character is like, that's not part of it.
I feel like that at that point, they'd like be really like playing the audience just for playing the audience sake.
Yeah. But I feel like they,
you know what I mean?
I feel like they kind of have done that, because yes, they've dropped certain things.
Sure they have.
They've dropped certain things about that confirm it's Gandalf, but they've also done certain things where like he does go to Greenwood, right? Like specifically that whole aspect of, is it Radagast, and talking about the East and all this kind of stuff. So they have dropped other hints to be like, well, there is room for him to be someone else. So I feel like that stuff is done on purpose. And the only reason I think they were doing that stuff on purpose is to be like, hey, let's give them the same thing they did with Sauron, like Adar, like, oh, he's Sauron, or then, the stranger, he's Sauron. They had a bunch of things that were put there to make you think something. So that's my only thing, is like, they've left things open for for fans that know the lore, that they might be able to be like, it might be something else. But like you said, what if he starts walking and he's got yellow boots on, and then it's like, oh, it's Bombadil. There you go.
Yeah.
Like that's my only like I said, 5 to 10% of me thinks there might be a chance that they do a twist and throw people off with like, it's Radagast, or it's a blue wizard, or it's,
the problem with
More goth.
the problem with that example is that with the example of Adar, it's like the person that it turned out to be was still Sauron. You know what I mean? Like whoever they turned out to be was the Dark Lord, whereas the person that the stranger turns out to be is like, this is a blue wizard that no one's ever heard of. You know what I mean? Like the payoff isn't big.
It doesn't make
for
sense.
it to be, you're going from being Gandalf to being like, let me give you some exposition about these two wizards that went to the east.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? It's like, it's not a punch. You know what I mean? Whereas with Sauron, you're like, oh, it's Sauron.
Yeah.
The reveal for Halbrand, it's like, oh, finally it's Sauron. Where I think it's just, unless they do something crazy and blow my mind, like I don't think the payoff is worth playing with people's
It
expectations.
would definitely be more of a letdown, I would think.
I mean, what if it ends up being Saruman? Is that not a twist that still people would know, and it still be like fans? Because I think
That's a better chance.
I think with
but I
the
don't think so
show,
still.
I think with the show is you do have a general audience, right? But you also do have a big group of hardcore fans that I think they're trying to keep everyone involved, and so I think that's the only reason I think there's a possibility that they do a twist, because you might be able to get people on board. Like if it's a blue wizard and they do something where there's,
Why don't you want it to be Gandalf?
I'm not saying it's not.
Why do
I'm
you
not
hate
saying,
Gandalf?
but I'm just saying like
You gotta get
I'm just saying to me there seems to be like there's still it's not 100% for me yet.
Yeah, no,
That's all I'm saying. I think I could see them doing something.
Yeah.
If they want to keep people guessing.
yeah.
And it seems like that's what they wanted in the first season. And so if you want to do a second season where you have a similar, like, keep people guessing, discussing week to week, I think that's a way you do it. Which seems kind of cheap, I guess, but it's like, keep people guessing on, like, who's the character.
I've got a question. So how are they going to reveal who it is? Like, how is that? Are they just going to, like, is this character, the stranger, just going to have this, like, epiphany? Oh, yeah.
I mean, they've
guy.
set up the veils kind of. He doesn't know his name yet, but maybe he gets to the east and he figures out he's
Just, like, striking a memory or what? Yeah. That's what I'm confused about. I'm not sure how that's going to work out.
I think as long as it's not done in the way like similar to like how Khan was in Star Trek Into Darkness, where he was basically saying it for the people
Audience.
watching the
Yeah.
movie. Like if it's not done that way, I don't really care how it's done. But like stuff like that, like can get a little like cheesy to me.
I'm just questioning, like, how they do it. Like, just technically. Like, who knows who Gandalf is?
Right. No one would know him.
Exactly.
Basically.
It'd have to be him self-declaring, being like, oh,
'Cause-
yeah, I remember now.
Yeah. In the Two Towers, when they're
Yeah.
like, Gandalf, he's like, yes, that was my name.
Yeah.
So he's like slowly, but there's no one that's like,
Yeah, no one's going to call him Gandalf. They're going to call him by his.
And even the other Ishtars,
Istar. Yeah.
Ishtars, they didn't even go by these names, right? Like, they're totally different, like...
Right. And the thing,
Don't they have technical names?
yeah. So the
And they
thing
have
with,
totally different forms, too.
right. So the thing with Gandalf is he's one of the ones that has like a bunch of names.
Yeah.
So they call him the Thrandir, the Grey
Yeah.
Pilgrim. Olorin is his original Maiar name.
So he's probably going to... I mean, it's probably going to be one of those initially, maybe.
Right.
Yeah,
He'll probably
probably.
say Aloran is what his
Yeah.
name is. And then
I just don't... I think the Harfoot connection is too strong. I
Yeah.
think there's the likability and also just the notoriety of Gandalf just with normal people kind of limits us to Gandalf, I think. But I'm with you. I would like to see something else because then that gives them more room to expand and maybe go east. That'd be cool. That'd be sweet. But yeah, anyway.
So what'd you guys think of the I think the big thing is the whole Sauron Halbrand reveal. How did it land with you, how it was done, and even how he basically tricks the elves to forge the rings? Did that work for you guys? I've seen people complain about it. I've seen people that loved it, people that hated it, people that don't really care. How did that whole situation work for you guys?
I think I was one of the people here that thought he was like going to be like the Witch King or something.
Wrong.
I think wrong. Got that one wrong. I think at first, like when it was starting to like reveal itself, I was like, oh, I'm a little disappointed. But as it kept going, and like the more I think about it, it's cool. I'm pretty happy with the way it was done, and just the like how he would. I'm assuming it was some type of like mental messing around with Galadriel. That was really cool, just having her kind of get mixed up with what she remembered was real and what was not. And to me, it feels a little bit like, was it too soon to reveal like Sauron? Because to me, I just don't know where,
maybe
like where season 2, season 3, like, you know what I mean? Like that seems like something that should have been revealed maybe season 3, like have it built up that more. It seems a little early, but I still liked it. It's still cool. Like I'm not pooping on it too much.
No. What about you, Josh? What do you think?
I think it works for me. I think the giveaway was when he's like, gives them the advice and he's like, consider it a gift.
Yeah.
I like sat up. I was like, okay, all right. Cause and I don't think technically they have rights to the name Anatar, which is in the books. That's his fair form. He sets himself up as an emissary from the Valar, and he's like, I'm the bringer of gifts, basically. So that's how he infiltrates in the books. So they're still kind of play off that idea, that line of him being like, hey, I'm still giving you advice.
Yeah.
Kind of plays into it. And for me, I think it worked, that he was kind of like guiding them towards the solution that he wanted, basically. Like, oh, maybe we should do this, and like working together. I thought that worked for me. I don't know. I think it does kind of leave the door open though for him to come back.
Yeah.
Because when Galadriel's like, hey, well, for one, she doesn't tell anybody, right? Which is like another thing.
That was my, we can talk about that.
Yeah. She's like, hey, we're not going to talk to Halbrand. And you can tell Celebrimbor is kind of like, but he's kind of a buddy of mine. You know, he kind of helped me do this stuff. So I think there's maybe still kind of the door open for maybe Halbrand to still come back to Celebrimbor and deal in a certain way, possibly. Because I feel like Celebrimbor, he's already told us earlier in the season, he's like, I want to make great things. I want to be just like my grandfather. And if he's already kind of gotten a taste of making the rings, we don't know if the other rings have been made. So canonically, the Elven rings are the last ones to be made.
Correct.
So
that bugged me a lot.
So that's one thing that's like, we don't know if they've already made the rings. Did they make the other rings and they're just kind of in a drawer somewhere and they're just going to hand them out next season? For me, it's like, I don't think it really matters where they're made. I think the fact that they made them on their own, Galadriel specifically says, these are for us. No one helped us, kind of a thing to kind of get that. Oh, Sauron didn't help us make these rings specifically. So you get around that story arc in the books.
Wait. Even though there's like imagery that insinuates that he had like the melting of the like metal looks like Sauron's eye.
Right.
There's like this symbolism of like, oh yeah, like he's here, you know, he's around here. And so I thought that was interesting because I was like, in the books, it's like they're on purpose to be separate. They're like counter to what has already been created by him. So it was kind of weird for me. I was like, he's so close to it.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, because I think theoretically so he can still feel when he creates the ring, they feel it basically because they have their rings. Mm-hmm. And so they take them off because they're like, he did something. But theoretically I think because they made them separate, it doesn't have the same power over them, but there's still some type of, I don't know, connection. And I don't know if that's ever developed more, but I know specifically they do mention that when he does create the ring, they kind of have a sense that the ring was created.
Yeah,
so
that doesn't mean they're linked, but it could mean that they're like make you hypersensitive to like power.
Right.
Basically.
So I think it's just the fact that he wasn't like hammering out the little,
I know.
you know what I mean? But yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think after seeing that, I'm like, it would make sense. Obviously, they're going against what canon is, but I was like, it would kind of make sense. Season 1 was the elf rings. Season 2, the dwarf rings. Season 3, men's rings. And then he does
Harfoot rings.
No, but I'm saying like if the show's called The Rings of Power, then it's like every season gets, and then the one ring forged in secret at some point, and then they have a battle at the end. To me, it's like maybe that's what they're going for. It's like this is going to be the first one. Galadriel. They set up stuff with Durin and the dwarves. To me, that seems like the biggest thing that tells me the dwarves' rings are going to be the next thing, because they've already kind of laid the groundwork down, and then passage of time happens, and then you have Theo and other people like that then maybe he becomes a ring wraith, or there's something with that. So I just think if I were to like look ahead and think what they're going to do, I think that's what they're going to do. I don't think they're going to be like, hey, the dwarf ones were already made and we'll do a flashback to when they were made. I think they're actually just going to be like, no, let's make the elf ones first, and now Halbrand Sauron is manipulating to make the dwarf ones and that kind of stuff. I think to me, that would work if they did it a good way. But I think that's kind of what they're leaning in towards. But I don't know.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see, because it would technically go against the canon. But I do
so
think
does Gandalf.
Right. Yeah. So does a lot of stuff does.
Yeah.
But I
half the things.
Yeah.
I think
it's-
it makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting story to have Halbrand has the rings, and then we see him going to different
giving them-
kingdoms.
okay. Yeah, that
and
might
handing
work.
them out, basically. Like, hey, because then you still kind of get the Anatar side of things, where he's like, hey, I'm bringing you these gifts. I think that would be kind of an interesting aspect of it.
Is there a reason why Galadriel didn't tell the others that he's Sauron, or
Probably initially from shame.
Yeah,
That's what I-
I think
that's
that's
what
what
I-
it is.
Initial shame because she's the one
that brought
he's the one that
him
got
there.
fooled? And yeah,
Right.
okay.
And she was the one that was like,
This is how
I'm going to get Sauron so bad,
Yeah, I think it's when you get caught with or not caught, but like one other person knows your dirty secret.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yeah.
I don't want to let anyone else know.
Right.
But then she starts realizing it's like, oh, but I need to fix these things that I, messed up with. And it's like when you get caught in a lie
yeah.
and you just keep digging yourself deeper and deeper. I think that was basically the emotion that she was going through.
And I think
And shock and like processing it.
And I think that works for me, especially because from the beginning,
It felt weird though. I'm
Well,
going to be
I'm-
honest.
well, I'm
It
saying-
didn't feel
yeah.
like supernatural. It felt weird. But go ahead.
yeah, what I'm saying is that felt weird. The more I think about it, though, it makes me be like, well, like we've talked from the beginning, people were like, well, Galadriel's not like that. And we talked about a character arc, right? Yeah. And so I think they did a good job of like showing her from the beginning. She was so headstrong and wanted this so badly. And then she kind of realizes in the last 2 episodes that she's like, oh, I screwed things up. Like, and it kind of softened her, which I think that's important to have that character arc through season 1. But then it also, at the end of this episode, is kind of like she makes the wrong decision again, I think, by trying to keep it a secret. And I think it's another reason to keep her as a flawed character, which I'm okay with. I know some people want her to be like perfect, but even in The Lord of the Rings, she still has to pass the test of like the temptation. So to me, it works that they're still keeping these things open to be like, there's another reason for, imagine another conversation with Sauron and her where he's like, well, why didn't you tell anybody about me? Right? Like, then he's able to tempt her again and kind of keep this like, this is your fault kind of stuff. So I think that's what they're kind of playing with. Like, Elrond is trusting her. We see that, but could that cause Sauron to be able to manipulate them and be like, why didn't you tell everyone else about me? It was your fault. And you kept
Elrond
it hidden.
knows.
And that, right.
She saw
And
the
so
scroll
I
and
think
also
that's what
saw
they're
her.
kind of doing to keep it so that Sauron has dirt on her, I guess, to continue this.
Seeds of
Yeah.
deception and
So I think that's kind of what they did. But yeah, that was the one thing in this episode that I was like, why did she do that? It didn't really make sense to me. But the more I think
Especially
about it, I'm
being
like,
an
oh,
elf.
it's setting stuff up.
being an elf and being so wise. Like you're so old. Like you should know not to keep secrets. That's like lesson 1 that mom tells you. Don't keep secrets. Secrets are no fun. Secrets hurt someone. And that is true. Thank you, The Office. I will say in that sequence when he shows the visions and stuff like that, one of the coolest visuals of this whole episode was the silhouette of like Sauron with his crown and then her right next to him in this
Oh,
sweet
the
like dress, like
reflection
a
in the
battle dress
water.
thing.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna make you a queen or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes, queen.
That looks sick. That visual was really cool. Whether
Now
or not,
that's what
whether
Peter
or not
Jackson.
it mattered.
Take notes, Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. I think that was my one of the coolest shots.
Yeah,
of
it
the
was
whole
really
series.
sweet.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm kind of the downer guy here. It felt weird. It felt like a mess. Everything except for the Harfoots. The Harfoots were great, well written. But this section where they're like, I didn't like it because I keep saying this, but it feels so darn rushed. I didn't like how they just like speed ran, forging the rings and like having a problem and then solving the problem and then like him like being like, maybe we should just gently put the ores together. And it's like it all happened so quick. And I wish this episode was longer to give it more time. And I keep saying that with these episodes, but it's true because these are huge moments in Lord of the Rings and we're just rushing it with these little tiny little like, you know, maybe 5-6 liner scenes and then boom, move to the next scene, boom, move to the next scene. I didn't like it. I love the visuals. The visuals are so stunning. I love the blacksmithing like sequence of like the ores and all that like imagery and like the Sauron's eye in the molten lava and like it's just so cool. I love that. But yeah, for me, it just felt a little. It almost feels not cheap because it looks great, but it felt cheap. The writing because like
Convenient.
because it's like they wanted these rings made in this season, and so they're like, so how do we make that happen? Okay, well we got to have it happen first. So it's like they skipped these other rings and they skipped some other stuff, and you know what I mean? Like they kind of like fast track this storyline. And for me, it feels weird because it's like this was their big payoff point that they're like, this is going to sell this show and it's going to lead us prosperously into the next, 4 seasons? There's 5 total. And I was like, it's just like, I wish there was more time with it. I wish there was more time with Sauron, the guessing game of Sauron. I liked the whole like vision part, but everything after that, it's just like, oh, she just like, looked up like the basic like family tree and like figured it out. But I was right, by the way, when they fought and she was on the horse and they like caught the Adar and stuff like that. And they're like, did you feel that? And she's like, looks at him. And you can tell in that moment, I think she figures it out, but like subconsciously.
Yeah.
And like I said before, I was like, it's like a power level thing, like, you know, game recognized game. And I think that was the moment when she first understood it. But anyway, yeah. So for me, it was just a little wacky. I think just it was cut too quick, and I just wish there was more room for it. I wish the other rings were before this because it just feels like, okay, well, why are we doing this? Okay, just because of the dwarfs and then the tree, the made up tree thing. So it's like, so for me, it just felt a little weird. That's all. Just a little weird. But it was still entertaining. I still enjoyed it. It's just I just wish it was a little bit more fluid. Yeah, more flowing.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, I love that guy. She's like, yeah, I'm gonna need you to look into some things, and he's just like, okay, well, we'll see.
Bro, I gotta go down to the freaking
tough.
catacombs, bro.
Oh, man, that's a long way. Oh. He just pulls out this scroll. One of the cool things that they did do is when they're actually, she's talking to him, they have the 2 elf boys walk by and they talk about time.
Yeah.
He's like, this is going to take 3 months, but we're going to have to do it in 3 weeks. So there we go. We know 100% that this is accelerated to the max.
Yeah.
And we also see at the end, like, there he is, like right next to Mordor. Like, so everything is advanced like super fast, faster than I thought. So,
And all I can say
Good to
is Adar is getting his butt whipped. Sauron's back.
Yeah.
Being like, dude, you killed me, right?
Yeah.
Guess who's in trouble now?
yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for making Mordor for me. Now
Thanks, homie.
you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
And what was
that's.
the thought process on him? Yeah. Was he hoping to become Sauron? Like, what?
I think so. Yeah.
He's just trying to
just
replace
wanted to
him?
rule. He wants a place for his children.
For his children.
Well,
Yeah.
he made a bed for him.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think that's what I'm excited about is like the storylines for the next season. Like I'm interested to see Adar and Sauron kind of fighting
man.
over Mordor and then see what Sauron's approach to the orcs is, because Sauron doesn't give a crap about the orcs.
Yeah.
And so kind of seeing that side of things of like Adar being like, these are my kids, you know.
Right.
I've raised him.
There's gonna be a point where they bring Adar's story kind of like humanizing him. They've already been doing that, but there's gonna be a point where you're rooting for him.
Yeah.
100%.
He's gonna get destroyed by Sauron.
Yeah, he will. But he'll do it for the greater good, greater orc good. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we also need to see what happens with Isildur.
Yeah.
We didn't get any
Well, he's dead.
conclusion.
So
Any conclusion
So-
with that?
The Balrog never showed up.
Yeah.
0 out of 10 for this season finale.
No Balrog. No, I was happy about that. I was super happy about
I
that.
was right.
If that was in there, I would have been
In your
pissed.
face. In your face.
In whose face?
Those two. They said there was going to be a Balrog.
I said Durin was dying in this episode, guys. I mean, I was way wrong.
Talk about rushing
If you
it.
guys have never,
yeah.
if you guys have never listened to the show,
Well-
that you guys know what I do. I just go
You even said Han Solo. was
balls
gonna
to the
be in.
wall.
You swing for the fences,
Yeah.
and Han Solo will be in season 2 of Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I thought this episode was going to be longer than it was,
Yeah.
yeah, me too.
which I was kind of super disappointed actually.
Yeah.
It was what, hour 14 or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Barely over an hour.
With 10 minutes of credits.
It was
Probably.
fast, man.
The music was awesome, though.
Music was great.
The music was great
Visuals,
in this-
music on
in
point.
this episode.
Super good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Good old bear.
The only thing that the bummer is that we have to wait a while for season 2.
2 years.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
know.
what they said.
They said 2 years.
Yeah.
Well,
I
they're
thought-
filming now.
It's probably going to be 1.5 years, most likely.
I thought the producer said they're trying to doing things to streamline it because obviously they had delays with COVID, so that's not
Yeah.
gonna be an issue.
doing like they're setting it up for the next seasons, I think, to be more streamlined. I think this next one's going to be the longest wait. Yeah.
Well,
It's a bummer.
it's been fun.
See, that's
The last time we discussed this show, the Nerd Age
true.
podcast will not be around by the time.
It couldn't.
Or
it
I'll
might
be
not
dead.
Yeah, Either- one of the two. Because there's stories like story plot points like the Numenorians,
yeah.
and we didn't even talk about that at all.
Yeah.
Where the king has died, and I don't know, he's like the hand of the king. I don't know what is
Yeah,
that guy.
Pharazôn.
Yeah, where
The
he's
last
like
king of Numenor.
struggling with like the mortality of like them, and
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot there.
That was one of my favorite
Muriel?
scenes. When Elendil goes down and then has that moment where he's basically lost hope because of Isildur. He thinks Isildur's dead, and he's mad at Galadriel. But then he has that moment where he's like, his name means elf friend, right? And so he kind of shares that with her, and they kind of rekindle kind of that hope, as far as like they're saying, regardless of what happens, like you sacrifice, you have to be willing to sacrifice things for the greater good, right? And they have that conversation,
Keep serving,
and then
something says, yeah.
he steps up, and she's walking. They're like, "We're here, right? We can see Numenor," which she can't, which is like burn. But then they walk up there, and then
Literally.
and then
Nice,
and then the camera pans around, right, and you see Elendil's face, and he's looking at all the black banners everywhere to basically in mourning because of the king. And that to me was like one of the best scenes because it just felt like they're talking about sacrifice, and then you get hit right with that emotional thing of like, yeah, it does take sacrifice. Like she's lost her eyesight, her father, like things are about to go down in Numenor. Like that whole place is going to be destroyed. So that was really cool to me how those scenes worked really good.
See, I think conceptually it works well, right? Like on paper, but like that emotion wasn't transferred to me. Like I wasn't empathizing, like literally with her. Like I wasn't actually feeling that pain, or like with the Harfoots, I felt that that tug. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's
I think
just
I'm
like
just more sensitive than you, homie.
I think you are kind
You're
of
more of a
bit
man.
of a girl. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you guys feel like were your heartstrings tugged at in that?
I think I lean more towards how Jonah felt about
So
it.
your heartstrings were tugged at. You kind of
they
choked
were
up a little
they
bit.
were plucked.
Wow.
Plucked your heartstrings.
A little ditty was
What a weird
playing
way.
on his heartstrings.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. That was one of my favorite scenes also. Just kind of going from the previous episode where Elendil was like heartbroken to be like, from losing his son and stuff like that, to them going and then her having that speech of, you got to count the cost of following the way of the faithful. No one said it was going to be easy. You got to count the sacrifice. And he's like, I never thought it would cost this much.
Oh, I think.
But then he's like, basically reaffirming like, man, this sucks. I lost my son, but we're going to keep doing this, basically on the path of restoring the old ways of Numenor, being friends with the elves, the old ways kind of a thing. And so that was really cool because I really like that because we set it up for as soon as they get back, like you said, her dad's gone now, and now we get the setup against Pharazôn, who's already even mentioned in the small things about like, we're going to immortalize this king, So he's already struggling with, and you can even see like he's looking at the king, and it's not like, I don't think he's mourning for him specifically. I think he's just mourning the fact that he's like, this shouldn't be happening.
Right.
Like, I don't think it's like, oh man, the king's dead. I think it's just like
just the fact
that he's like, it's unfair that someone should die like this, a Numenorian king in general.
That's true to the books.
Yeah,
right?
That's the big issue with the Numenorians is that they want immortality, basically.
Right.
So we've already kind of started seeing those like underlying themes kind of popping up, and I think we're just going to see it more in season 2.
Yeah.
I guess the one part of that well, first of all, Isildur isn't dead, so that's a big reason why it's not like it doesn't have the same weight, right? Because I know he's not dead.
For
right?
who?
Isildur.
Oh,
the dad, his emotion and like that part of the story, like for someone who has no idea who Isildur is, awesome, sure.
He knows, but you know. So
I know that you know that I know. Yeah. So I think that kind of hurts the story a little bit for me personally. And then also the other thing is, okay, so this whole concept of like, we got to go back to the old ways. We got to be friends with the elves. I'm kind of confused by that because I don't really get the why. And I'm not sure if like the simpleton would know either. Like, so what's the point?
Right. So I don't know if they've explained it super well this
I don't think they have.
season, but I think they've got plenty of time to explain it more.
Yeah.
At least we know because there's a divide, right? They're
yes.
When you get to Numenor, the first thing you hear is, oh, we don't like elves here.
Right.
So there's already, even if you don't know what's going on, oh, for whatever reason, they don't like elves. And they kind of explain that in whatever that is the 3rd episode or whatever, where they're talking about like, yeah, we earned this island, all that stuff. We did it on our own. We didn't need help from the elves. So they've kind of set that up. And I think they can dig into that more in the next seasons to explain it more because you can see the conflict, especially now that Elendil and Miriel are, I guess, openly or more openly, I guess, Elendil want to be what they call the faithful versus the opposite, which is the King's Men, which is they want the king of Numenor, basically.
But as the audience, right, I'm seeing this and I'm not seeing why it is the right thing to go like be, follower friends with the elves and stuff like that. Like me as the audience, I don't really understand. I think it's very unfinished, I think, obviously, because
they barely, I think they'll do that for the next season.
Yeah. So I'm saying like, that's why the drama of the things that they were saying during all that, it just had less weight because it's like, so what? There's a lot of so whats with that storyline.
Yeah, I don't think it necessarily has to be that though, because I think
for sure. But I'm saying that helps.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but it's just weaker for me.
I don't think they need to set that up.
No, they don't.
They're just setting up like the basic premise
season
of
2. Yeah,
for sure.
The king's dead now.
I'm explaining
what happens after that.
I'm explaining to you why it didn't have like any weight to me at all because Isildur's still alive, and also I don't know, what is the point? And Numenorians are so alien to me as well, just in general. So it's like we're learning so much about Numenorians right now, especially I didn't read the Silmarillion. I watched some YouTube videos about stuff, right? And I guarantee you this isn't like ultra accurate. I'm not sure if all this stuff happened, but even if I would have read it, I probably would have more closure to it. But anyway.
Yeah, I think it's just this season, and that's, I think, some of the people, like some of the complaints that I think are valid is it did feel like there was a lot that they had to set up. And that's just because you're setting up a first season. So I think you're right in that aspect that they kind of were like, hey, we need to set this stuff up. And then if it lands with people, it lands. If it doesn't, well, at least we set up what's coming next. I think they did the same thing.
Well,
the difference, though, is I think one was done a little better.
What was better?
The
What was
Elrond
done?
and Durin.
Yes.
So that was still kind of a similar thing where they're like, hey, the payoff for this is going to be later on in the
Yes.
seasons. But I think
because they showed and like there's a lot more in it.
yeah, and I think because Durin and Elrond were so good together that a lot of people loved those things, so it fit better. But also Numenor has a lot more working parts because you got Farazan and his son and kind of those dialogues they have, and then you have Elendil's daughter who's also in there, and then you got Muriel. So there was a lot more to kind of establish that you needed to establish. So that's why I think it probably doesn't feel the same way. But I think what they're doing is they're like, hey, let's set this up because this is going to be, you have to set the groundwork for then the conflict that's going to rise in season 2, 3, and 4.
And I'm glad that they did what they did. I actually would have been kind of bummed out if they spent more time on that because they weren't looking to like, sew up any loose ends there.
They're just kind of setting it.
Let's deal with the main thing at hand, So I mean, I was good with it. I just didn't feel as much. That's all. So yeah, good episode though.
Yeah, I think for a first season finale.
What do you guys? What would you give the series if you're going to give your ranking for Rings of Power season 1? What is your rank?
Yes.
I would.
What? Were you gonna say 10?
No, go ahead.
I'll give it 9 rings out of 10.
9 rings of man.
Okay. What about you, Josh? He's really thinking on it.
Yeah, it's
I can rate it if you want.
yeah, go for it.
Maybe I'll break the ice. I'll give it 7.3 embers.
7.3. Okay.
That apparently blind you.
I'd give it a. I keep going back and forth. I've got 2 numbers in mind. I'm gonna give it 8.8.
Ooh.
It's good. Really good. Excellent, even.
Out of 100.
Yeah. 8.8 is mine. I just, when I think about it, there's just so much stuff I really enjoyed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
And I don't carry a lot of baggage of lore baggage with me. Like this is wrong. This is wrong. I was I just really enjoyed it. So yeah, 8.8.
Josh, you've had time.
That's a hard one. That's a hard one. I'm in the high 8s. I think probably like at 8.8.
Okay.
It's the exact same as Jonas. Wow.
Yeah, I think even though I do have some lore baggage, like I try not to think about it too much. We're just people like, how dare you? You're supposed to nitpick about everything. But honestly, it's like, for me, it's just gravy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I never would have thought I would have got a show about all these characters and stuff.
As long as they're not like taking away from your experience from the other movies. Like, as long as you're not damaging things before, I say it's fine.
Yeah. And all the stuff, like the themes are strong. The acting's great.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a single actor that I was like,
Really?
yeah.
Ah, man.
Name one.
The Isildur's dad.
What?
It was
I like
the moment where
man.
he had that moment where he's like, yeah, your son's dead or whatever. That was rough, man. Really? You guys bought in on that?
Yeah. And especially the scene where
I've seen way better looks from The Stranger.
Where Galadriel meets Muriel, and then they say, I'll be back. And then she's like, Captain, and she's like, come from him, and then he's just looking away and he's in tears. I was like, that was good. I thought he was great.
Yeah. Outvoted.
Okay,
Elendil, good actor.
7.3.
Agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Subjective. But yeah.
No. That's all we do. Subjective. That's all we do here, dude.
All right, well, that'll do it for our discussion on Rings of Power. Subscribe and like, follow us on YouTube. Everywhere you get podcasts, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and we'll be talking about more stuff here in the future. So thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see y'all next time.
See you. Bye.